Former Chicago officer Jason Van Dyke was sentenced on Friday for murdering 17-year-old Laquan McDonald in 2014, bringing an end to years of pain, protesting, and demands of justice. In the end, Van Dyke was sentenced to 81 months in prison, which is 6 years and 9 months. Prosecutors were requesting at least 18 years in prison, but Van Dyke could have been sentenced to up to 96 years, but was not. 6 years, 9 months. Van Dyke will be eligible for parole after serving half of his term, which is just under 3.5 years.
Man, that is just harsh, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's just so harsh, man.
Not even 3.5 years?
For just like...
Snuffing out a young life?
I'm just telling you, that just seems like overkill, man.
Yeah.
That seems like overkill for just shooting someone who was running away from you and then filling their body with lead, man.
Yeah, man.
That just doesn't seem like such an egregious offense to deserve that much time.
I saw his attorney speak to the media afterwards, and he described Jason Van Dyke as being happy. He said this was the first time since this whole ordeal had been ongoing that he actually saw him kind of relieved.
Well, what does that tell you, Will? Like, when someone who is indicted, charged with anything and goes through a trial and is going to face time in jail, and their sentence is issued and joy or happiness overcomes them, what does that tell you?
It usually tells me that the penalty, or not the penalty, because it could be acquittal.
Could be acquittal. Yeah.
Just the decision is more than that they could ask for.
Oh yeah, like they were happy with that because it could have been much worse. So he knows he got off.
Oh yeah,
pretty fucking easy.
Again,
but
he faced 96 years in prison.
Well, wait, but he's happy with the outcome. But does his wife think that he got off easy?
I think she's happy too.
Oh, she's happy, but she claims that he paid the ultimate price. That's what she claimed.
She said the ultimate price.
She said that, he paid the ultimate price. And I'm like, the ultimate price?
I think you're talking about the wrong person.
I think you're talking about the wrong person. Like, it may not have been the outcome that was desirable. I can understand that. But 6 months in prison and not being able to enforce law on the street, I don't think that qualifies as the ultimate price. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think that qualifies. Like, having to change professions. Oh my God. That's like death. Having to change professions, not be able to be a cop anymore and serve a little stint in jail. Like, that's not the ultimate price. Like, that to me, that illustrates some privilege right there. When his wife can kind of claim victimhood status after her husband is held accountable for something. And like, you've been out of shape about having to change careers. That's your concern. Yeah. Like, that's some privilege ass shit right there.
This happened on Friday, like I mentioned. And when I heard the news, unbelievable rage, and at the same time, unbelievable sadness at the same time. Very emotional, man, because I realized that this doesn't look like justice whatsoever. We know that it's not going to be 6 years and 9 months. We know with good behavior, yes, he's going to get out in less than 4 years. This is not justice. 17-year-old Laquan McDonald deserved more. He deserved to still be alive. So the judge in this case, the presiding judge in this case, whose name is Judge Vincent Gogan, he very clearly showed Van Dyke mercy and found something redeemable about his character or his being. Now, I just think about the many times that Laquan McDonald's life was undervalued and deemed just worthless. It started with officer at the time, Jason Van Dyke, arriving on the scene and pumping Laquan McDonald's body full of 16 bullets. At a time when Laquan McDonald was not threatening anybody else, he was walking away from officers, but this officer, Jason Van Dyke, did not find anything redeemable about the soul of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald, so he shot him dead. Now, not only did he shoot him, like you said, not only did he shoot him while he was walking away, on the way down he was shooting him, and when he was laying motionless on the ground, he kept firing. So I think that was the first time in this situation where his life was undervalued, devalued, right? Now, another time I can think of is when Van Dyke's officers, his fellow officers, lied for him, tried to cover up the murder for him, and suggest that Laquan McDonald was actually a threat and was coming towards them. Right? So that's another case where Laquan McDonald was not shown mercy. His life was not valued. Another time was when it took 400 days for the evidence of this murder to actually come to the light of day. And that was only because a judge made the city uncover it. So then Mayor Rahm Emanuel and the Cook County State's Attorney, Anita Alvarez, and others as well, they sat on this information. They sat on this evidence because they clearly did not value the life of Laquan McDonald. They deemed it so worthless that they were going to cover this up and try to just make it go away. It was exactly 400 days before we actually got to see this, right? And so now we come to the situation where this judge undervalues Laquan McDonald's life, and he decides that for killing that 17-year-old life, it's worth 6 years and 9 months in jail. Again, I wish that his life was deemed as valuable as it seems that Jason Van Dyke's is deemed.
Now, you went through all that, right? Now, if everyone involved in this case, from top to bottom, actually thought that Jason Van Dyke's actions were justified, what would be the need? Why would there be a need to cover up everything at each level? Do you see what I'm saying? That's what makes no sense. If Jason Van Dyke and his superiors, from top to bottom, thought that he did the right thing, there would be no need for anyone to cover it up.
No.
And I mean, I like how you, kind of highlighted how Laquan McDonald was, deemed less than valuable in regard to the situation. But I don't think we could kind of talk about this in isolation, from the broader issue. Because I think Laquan McDonald, regardless of his own character, regardless of what kind of life he led, he could serve as a symbol for how many people are devalued in society, in this society, and how that contributes to how law enforcement approaches them. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just about Laquan McDonald here. We can't just view this situation in isolation. You know what I'm saying? We do have to kind of like view it as some sort of kind of broader issue in regard to how law enforcement officers engage the public and certain citizens.
Okay, so you bringing that up, talking about law enforcement actions, right? Okay, now, I often hear that we need to be tough on crime, okay? We need to be tough on crime as to deter the potential actions of potential criminals, right? So this, in my opinion, does nothing to deter the actions of potential criminals and the potential criminal actions of law enforcement. So I think all this does is actually embolden officers to do exactly what they're going to do, to engage in criminal activity. Now, I'm not saying that, of course, and I hate to even throw this out there because I think it's stated way too often when you actually criticize police officers or law enforcement in general, you have to throw in this caveat of saying, I'm not talking about all police officers. That should just be a given. If you're reasonable individual, if you're objective, then of course you're not talking about the whole institution of law enforcement. But for those that actually engage in this police misconduct and police brutality, or even killing a citizen criminally, I think all this does is show that there's going to be protection along the way. All the way up to sentencing, there's going to be a protection along the way. I think all this does, again, is all it does is embolden police officers to say that I'm going to have protection in some way, shape, or form. Maybe worst case scenario, I actually get to a trial. Like I actually get, convicted, I get to a trial. But it's not going to be as severe as like maybe somebody on the street that killed somebody. I'm definitely not going to get a sentence like that. So for me, all this does is it stands to benefit Jason Van Dyke, his family, and the institution of law enforcement. It definitely doesn't do anything to benefit Laquan McDonald or anybody else that is at the other hands of criminal police actions.
So if that is the reality, right, and that is the perception, like, how do they think, as members of law enforcement or as a kind of a criminal justice apparatus, how do they think the people will respond? Because if the people see them kind of getting off scot-free, not facing significant punishment for their actions, what is that going to do to public trust? And then what is that going to, like, how are people who like feel vulnerable going to think?
Right.
There's going to be one, more animosity, and two, there may be instances where, hey, the justice system, cannot accurately adjudicate these situations. So guess what? We're going to take things into our own hands and issue our own justice.
Correct.
Or our own form of justice, our own form of street justice, vigilante justice.
Right.
That's a possibility.
And that's always criticized, vigilante justice, right? Like, it's just, I'm a parent, right? I'm a parent, I'm an uncle, I'm a cousin, I'm a friend to multiple children who are black. And I'm scared out of my head. I'm scared out of my heart. I'm scared to death for these children. Because too many times I'm educated to the fact that in this country, in this world, the mere appearance of brown skin is threatening. And when something like that whenever something is perceived to be threatening, then the response to that could be fatal. So that's why I'm scared to death for these children. I can't always be there. I definitely can't always be there. And it's not like it can't happen to me. It can't happen to you. It can happen to anybody. It happened to Laquan McDonald, who, look, we understand that he had a knife in his hand. We understand that. We understand that there was a legitimate reason for the police to be there. Nobody's denying that whatsoever. But his life did not deserve to be snuffed out when he wasn't a threat to anybody.